So this is going to start out a little bit loud, but we're just by the syrup pump, but we'll get past that. That's our feeding setup, by the way. Syrup pump, couple of totes with quick these cam lock style connections, so it's really easy to switch from one tote to the next. We're currently feeding them 55 HFCS 55, which is a mixture of 55% corn syrup and the rest glucose and sucrose. And how's it going, guys? Good. Here's our big cameo moments here. Yeah. So anyways, so yeah, no, we're just 2 seconds of fame, if that, for us. So what we're doing today, we have pollen sub that Bo and Chris actually did this yard about a week ago. So we've got pollen sub. That white powder you see is those probiotics from the company in Milwaukee. I believe it's Super D as in Delta, F as in Foxtrot, M as in Mike, Super DFM probiotics. Man Lake has its own brand, but this one is the one from the manufacturers in Milwaukee, which we've seen really great success with. So what we're doing, so key things, this is the 27th, 28th of August. The key things that we're looking at trying to get done is obviously mite treatments we want done by now, even though we are going to go back and do mite counts here in the next week or so and just see where we're at. But we should be okay, but don't leave it to chance. We'll double check it. You know, here's another quick thing too to keep an eye out for is robbing. If you see that, you want to try and, like in this case here, they're not actually getting in. My thoughts are probably that this lid wasn't on properly before, and so they're used to that being an access to rob the hive, but now that it is, they're just still trying to get in. So that's secure, so that should stop in a little while. Same with this one. We actually have to replace the lid because the overhang on the lid was setting on the cleat and creating a gap about a ½ inch. So it's another thing for your hive, whether you've got 1 or 1,000, you want to make sure that your hives are closed as tight as possible. Obviously, you still have the main entrance open. If your hive is strong and healthy enough, it should be able to defend itself. I touched on that before as far as people being concerned about yellow jackets and what have you. And the fact is that if you've been managing the health of your colony properly, you shouldn't have any issues with them. They should be able to defend themselves. So we want to have the mite treatment done already. If you're watching this even a few days from now and you're thinking, oh crap, I haven't done that yet, just do it like right now. Just get the whether it's 2 days shipping or whatever, just get the mite treatment on there. We have a preference for Apivar. Formic acid is great in the form of Mite Away quick strips. Apiguard, thiamol based, is good. Oxalic acid we've had mixed results with, especially, so let me back up here, and I should probably have a better outline of the things I want to say in a succinct order before doing these videos, but hopefully get some value out of this. We're getting our bees, overall bees, ready for, they're going to be going down to California for almond pollination. That's a different process from, this is actually our nuke we've been following through a season. We just put it on a pallet, and this is the split from it. The process for these two that'll be overwintering here is going to be different in the sense that, and I've had a lot of people ask me about this, you know, do I want to feed them pollen sub right now and stimulate brood? Won't that consume more food and create a larger population going through the winter? It depends upon the threshold for the percentage of protein in a pollen sub to stimulate brood production, I want to think is around 14 or 15%. Google it to make sure. The pollen sub that we're giving right now is well over 22, 24%, because we are wanting to stimulate brood production. We want these hives busting at the seams going into winter, because their season for the bees going down to California are going to begin in January. With that said, I've also given that same pollen sub to these two hives that are going to be here, our nuke we've been following through and what have you. Because the thing is that even though obviously a large population consumes more, I would much rather have a larger population of bees. They build up quicker in the spring, etc., etc. And so you want to give them a pollen sub, whether you want to go for a percentage that's low enough that it doesn't stimulate extra brood rearing. That's your preference, that's up to you. But they do need to have a really good, so first thing, mites, get that knocked down so that your bees are healthy. And then using that as a foundation, you're going to use your pollen sub to help them store fat, the fat in their bodies. A really incredible article, I think it's a 3 or 4 part series, Randy Oliver, scientificbeekeeping.com. Just Google Fat Bees by Randy Oliver and those articles that come up. Well worth your time to read. But the bees need that fat for not only their own wintering through the winter, but that's also the fat and nutrition that they're going to be dipping into when they start raising the brood in the spring. And so that's how you see that proper management techniques right now have a compounding effect 2 seasons from now, as in, we're treating late summer, that's going to have an effect in spring. So that's where you always have to be kind of thinking in that mindset. And so for our nukes here, that's really the big thing that we're wanting to have them prepped for. So we've got pollen sub, we've got them fed. I mean, this is an excellent looking colony. I'm not even going to bother messing with it. The mite treatment's been done. We've been using the probiotic. They've actually eaten the probiotic already. I just put it on maybe 10 minutes ago. And our split is looking really excellent as well, busting at the seams. And so that's really all we have to be worried about for right now. So don't get overwhelmed, worried about, that's one more really important point that I have a lot of people ask me about is how do you manage moisture in the hive? Don't mind me, I just wanted to do a pan of our home yard here. These are all the splits, late season splits we did, and they're looking really, really good. People ask me, how do you manage the moisture in the hives? I think the biggest issue that arises with people having moisture in their hives going into fall and winter is them feeding too thin of a syrup too late in the year. Right now, we're feeding them, before we were feeding them our own syrup that we were mixing. It was roughly a 1-to-1 mix. Now, again, in the late summer, we've gone to feeding them a syrup mix so that they don't have as much work to do to evaporate that nectar down to a moisture content where it stays. Obviously, like with honey, if you have nectar or syrup that has too high of a moisture content, yeast can grow, which creates, obviously alcohol, which, depending on what you're wanting to do, that could be a really bad thing. It could be a really good thing. But I think that's kind of the number one thing, because I know a lot of people will email me or text me when we get our first cold snap, kind of in a panic, saying, oh my gosh, what do I feed my bees? Can I feed them a 1-to-1 syrup or whatever? And ideally, you want to have all of your feeding done by the second week of September at the absolute latest, in case we get a cold snap. Because in August, especially in late August, let's take advantage of this heat and let the bees use that to evaporate the syrup quickly and efficiently so that they can cure the syrup and don't have to worry about that excess energy. 1 second here. I'll go get more gas. Is there more gas in that tote or that red jerry can? Okay, let me go check. It's amazing how handy gas comes in. What's that? Oh, okay. Anyways, I'll be back. Okay, so getting back to, yeah, so I mean, if the bees are looking like what you're seeing here in our nuke, don't worry about breaking into them any further. Just let them be. This is obviously a really key time of year to let them get everything in order for successful wintering. And now there's some people who have been reaching out to me who have queenless hives. The best thing to do if your hive is queenless this time of the year is merge it with another hive. Ideally, if it's queenless but has a good population of bees, merge it with a colony that has a solid laying queen, solid brood pattern, but maybe just a little bit weaker. Maybe they got a later start in the year or whatever. Just merge those hives together. A mistake that I have made lots of times, and I still struggle with making, is trying to save every hive, and it's not worth your time or effort. If you got a hive that looks mediocre, looks like, you know, there's a few frames of bees, but the brood pattern's kind of weird or what, don't waste your resources, your time, trying to bring them back. Just cull them, merge them with another hive, shake them out, what have you. At this point in the season, you really only want to focus your efforts on colonies that are really strong and look like they've got the best chance of successful wintering. So that was kind of the talk I was going to do on some of the key things to look for this time of year. Here, we'll go and take a peek at some of these splits. And they're kind of the average. It's another system that you may have noticed is all our feeders are on the inside of the pallet, so we can just, even though we had to take the whole lid off to give them that probiotic treatment, later in the year, if we're just doing feeding, we just have to crack the lid, offset it a bit, and then we can go and do our feeding. But these will make excellent colonies for California, for the almonds, a little bit later in the year, or later next year, I should say. It's hard to believe it's almost September already. Just makes you wonder where the time goes. But anyway, so hopefully that's helpful. Once again, mite treatments, pollen sub, feed. One more key point with a single, if you're wintering a single deep, you want the wintering weight to be around 75, 80 pounds. If you're wintering a double, you want a minimum of 110 pounds for successful wintering. Anyways, we'll catch you later.